PLIGHT. Interior hospital night flashback sequence. A teenage Charlie is seen running down an empty hospital hallway.
Yeah.
A female nurse enters the hallway from a corridor.
Charlie, stop!
I got him. I see him on camera, running towards the nurse's station.
Thank God. I'll be so happy when the remaining patients are shipped off and I can finally get out of this place.
The nurse turns the corner that leads to the nursing station. Nurse 2 can be seen sitting with Charlie and feeding him some of his chocolate cake.
What are you doing? Why are you feeding that animal? You're wasting good food on him.
Come on, he's not an animal. He's a good kid.
He's inferior.
Shut up with all that inferior talk. Keep politics out of the workplace.
Whatever. I'm taking my 30.
In the background, we can see a television program of a political debate.
It is quite simple. If you have a damaged cast of a cooking pot, all pots from that cast will inherit that imperfection.
We are not talking about cooking pots. We are talking about human beings.
With a 1 in 10 ratio of a child being born with a mental or physical disability, it is time we change our point of view before we are all a country of idiots and cripples.
End flashback sequence. Exterior farmhouse, backwoods day. Years later, present. Peter appears over a small hill that leads into the woods.
I found him! He's in the woods!
Charlie snaps a young branch and carefully peels the skin off of it. Peter backtracks towards Connie.
Finally. Either we have to start tying a rope around his ankle or I have to start getting younger to keep up with him.
Connie takes Peter's arm for support.
Yeah.
Upon seeing Connie, Charlie motions his hands back and forth, showing his approval of her arrival.
Such a good boy, always keeping to himself and bothering no one.
Connie takes her hands and runs them through Charlie's hair, giving him a light scratch with each motion.
Except James. James hates him.
Peter walks over to Charlie and provides a scratch of his own.
That's not true. James loves Charlie. He's just too proud to admit it.
Connie taps Charlie on the rear end and motions for him to go home.
Yeah.
Charlie smiles at Connie and makes his way back home, a few shredded and chewed pieces of leaf in his hand, and he moves his head up and down in a low-tone hum.
You know, you're the only one he acts that way with. So calm and loving.
Connie laughingly pulls up the sleeve to her upper left arm.
Did you already forget this incident?
Peter gazes at the teeth-shaped scar with a cringe.
Yes. Nearly forgot about that one.
Both make their way back to the farmhouse as dusk is setting. Interior farmhouse kitchen evening.
Come on, boys, to the table, now.
Connie lifts the pot of the rudimentary vegetable soup and takes it to the table.
Charlie, come with me to your table.
Bartholomew fills a plastic bowl with the soup, walks over to Charlie's table, and places it in front of him. Charlie waves his hands back and forth in excitement.
Good boy, Charlie.
Walking away, Bartholomew hears the quick slurp of the soup and the vegetables hit the top of Charlie's table. James pounds his fists on top of the kitchen table.
Why do all of you allow him to do that? You will never learn unless you stop him.
Connie sits down at the table and lets out a sigh.
Would you like if we brought him back to the table with us?
James looks down straight at his soup and mumbles.
Guess not. But he better not come after my food.
James moves his spoon around the bone broth, rarely finding a vegetable bigger than a pea. Slightly out of breath from gulping down the broth.
Good soup, Connie. Is there any more?
I'm afraid not, Russell. Perhaps tomorrow.
Can we have some of the jarred sausages?
You know, we need to save those. Not tonight, perhaps on the next birthday.
Russell smiles from ear to ear.
Maybe excused, Connie.
Connie shakes her head in agreement.
Thank you.
Peter and James are still eating, taking their time along with Connie in silence. Russell sits next to James, quietly waiting for him to finish.
Connie, the soup was wonderful tonight. Thank you.
Connie places her hand on Peter's.
Thank you, my dear.
In the background, we can hear television coming on from the living room. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin our descent into Los Angeles. The sound you have just heard is landing gear locking into place. The Los Angeles weather is clear. We expect to make our 4 hours, 18 minutes flight on schedule.
Pause it.
Russell kicks back the last droppings of soup in his bowl and makes his way to the living room. Interior farmhouse, evening. In the living room, Bartholomew has started playing an old VHS cassette of The Graduate. The rest of the boys soon fill the room as well. Sometime later, we see the boys' faces covered by the glow of the television, almost lip-syncing the movie.
Mrs.
Robinson, you are trying to seduce me, aren't you?
The boys say in unison with a grin on their faces and erupt into an adolescent laughter. Connie passes by the living room entrance and pokes her head in.
You boys better not try to get any ideas.
The boys erupt in another uproar of laughter, causing them to roll on the floor. Interior farmhouse, the boys' bedroom, night. The boys can be heard conversing among themselves. Connie walks into the bedroom.
Boys, it's time for bed. Come on now, under the covers.
Connie lightly slaps Russell on the rear end. Russell exaggerates the slap and jokingly tumbles into the bed.
Good night, Connie.
James lifts his head from the pillow and turns to Connie.
Night, Connie.
Good night. Thank you for the wonderful soup again. I really enjoyed it.
Connie turns the lights off when suddenly she hears one last voice.
Good night, Mrs. Robinson.
Oh boy.
The boys burst out in laughter as Connie quickly closes the door. Interior farmhouse, hallway night. As Connie's walking away from the boys' room, she can still hear their muffled laughter. She walks by Charlie's bedroom. He's fast asleep. Interior farmhouse, kitchen night. Connie sits at the kitchen table and opens a large plastic tote. She takes an oblong yellow tablet out of a tall white pill bottle as she shakes it.
Only a few left.
Connie places it in a pill cutter and splits it in two and takes one half. She covers her face with her hands and she starts recalling the last time they had any medications and their last visitor. Exterior farmhouse night 3 years prior.
I took all my truck could carry.
Robert, 68, sets a box onto the porch.
I'll not be able to make it back to town and get any more supplies. It was too dangerous now.
Did you happen to run into Maria or Louis? They left several days ago. Our phone lines are down, so we've not been able to reach out to her.
All the phone lines are down, Connie. So this is electric lines and even the cell tower. Thank goodness you have the solar system up and running.
You know, it was her idea for getting it. I was against the whole idea, of course. I hope she made it back to her family.
Robert sets the last box of medications on the porch.
Listen, come with me, Connie. What's happening beyond this farm is something else. It's dangerous, Connie. Come with me now and we can leave right now.
Robert takes Connie into his arms and holds her against him. He buries his face into the crease of her neck.
Please, Connie, for the love of God, come with me.
Bobby, why did you ask me that? You know I can't leave the boys. What would happen to them?
Connie, it's not your responsibility.
Robert looks around at the farm and the house.
None of this. Think of yourself, Connie. If not you, think of me. Us.
I am thinking, Robert. I've given it more thought than you know. Thank you for everything you've done for the boys. Thank you for everything you've done for me.
Robert kisses Connie's forehead as tears run down her face.
You have to go now, Bobby.
I know.
Robert walks back to his truck defeated. He reaches into his glove compartment, takes something out, and hands it to Connie.
In case, if the boys prove too much for you, no one would blame you. You would be doing them a favor rather than letting them deal with the madness beyond this farm.
Connie opens the small tin and analyzes the contents.
5 pills?
Yes, 1 for each. 4 bed.
Robert walks back to his truck, starts it, and makes his way away from the enclave.
Goodbye, Bobby.
Connie, distressed, lays herself onto the wooden porch. She watches the taillights of Robert's truck slowly disappear into the wooded road leading away from the farm, away from her. Interior farmhouse kitchen, night, present. Connie rouses herself from her reflections of her last visitor, puts away the medication boxes, and goes to bed for the night.